The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, King County Fire District 16, Washington, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 34746. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation of your new vehicle. Let's start at the front bumper. On the face of the front bumper, you'll find on the passenger and driver side dual air horns. Moving just inside of that location, you'll find dual speakers housing siren and PA speaker system. Inside of that location on the frame rail, you'll find protruding through the front bumper your tow hooks, which are closed. In the very center, you'll find mechanical siren. As we move up onto the cab face, on the outer edges, you'll find a marker turn indicator. Just inside of that location, headlight structure housing low and high beam headlights. Up from that location, you'll find your emergency warning lights forward facing. As we move up onto the windshield area, you'll find 3 windshield wipers across the seamless one-piece windshield. Moving out to the outer edges, you'll find your mirrors housing a flat and convex mirror. As we move up to the brow of the apparatus, you'll find 5 clearance lights. Inside the clearance light area, you'll find a forward-facing camera. On the roof of the vehicle, you'll find a forward-facing floodlight. And then up onto the very top, you'll find your emergency warning light bar. Located inside the light bar is where you'll find in the very center your Opticom. Let's go ahead and move now to the side of the cab, which will start focusing in on the driver's side. Let's first start down at the lower section here in the front bumper area. You'll find side-facing emergency warning light. Moving up from that location, this is your marker turn indicator light. As we move through, you'll find your door latches are going to be easily accessible with a gloved hand and also are keyed. You'll also find grab handles at all points of entry for personnel for gaining access in and out of the cab. As we move directly over the front tire, you'll find 2 auto eject, one electrical, the other air. As we move to the rear, you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. As we move up to the very top, you'll find a side-facing cab scene light. As we move all the way to the back wall of the cab, you'll find a LED water level indicator. A little difficult to see in the image, but at the very top corner of the cab, this is going to be a camera side facing. As we move down at the lower portion of the cab, you'll find a compartment. D-handle will gain access, and it is a lockable compartment. This is your shoreline inlet, 20 amp auto eject, and also an air eject. Let's go ahead and move up now and talk a little bit about some of the items within the pump panel area. We'll first start in the upper left-hand corner with the 2 cross lays that are dead lays. As we move up to the very upper left portion, you'll find 2 dead lays in the cross lay area. You'll also find long-handled tool storage in between both of those, one for the passenger side and one for the driver's side. As we move up to the very top, you'll find 2 lift and turn latches will gain access behind the pump panel gauges. At the very top section, you'll find your booster nozzle holder. As we move back down in between the 2 large gauges, you'll find a fuel gauge. As we move down from this location, you'll find the master gauge for, on the left, your master intake, and on the right, your master discharge. As we move further down, you'll find your test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. They are currently plugged, and those are for testing purposes. As we move now to the very top, you'll find your deck gun. Moving just to the right, you'll find the water level tank indicator. And then moving further to the right in the purple, you'll find the driver's rear discharge upper. As we move down, we have some switches located here across the pump panel. First, your red switch is going to be your air horn. We have panel lights, reel rewind, front flood, cab rear scene light. As we move down to the next section, you'll find your pump, driver's side flood, passenger side flood, and then an indicator at the very bottom indicating OK to pump, and it will indicate in the green color. As we move to the right, you'll find your driver rear discharge lower. Moving just to the left, you're going to find the reel discharge. Moving further to the right, you'll find your tank to pump. And then all the way to the very far right hand side, you'll find the next module, which is going to be your throttle pressure governor. For more information on the throttle pressure governor, please see the owner's manual for the details for operation. Let's move just to the left where we'll find the number 3 passenger side discharge, yellow. As we move further down, you'll find the number 1 passenger side discharge in red. And then moving just to the right, you'll find the number 2 passenger side large diameter in green. Let's move up to the very top section here. We'll find an additional 2.5 inch, which is gated down to 1.5 inches. This is the number 1 driver's side discharge. At the very top, you'll find your minimum operation maintenance schedule. We'll go over that next. First to the right, you'll find the number 2 driver's side discharge in blue. As we move further to the right, you'll find a green indicator indicating that it is okay to engage the throttle if the light is illuminating. Just beneath that, you'll find an audible alarm. The outer edge of that bezel will allow you to dampen or brighten the sound. Moving further to the right, you'll find the tank fill. Let's move all the way down to the far left-hand side of the pump panel, where we'll start first with your pump drain. As we move just to the right, you'll find a warning label here regarding pressure hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. As we move further down, I'd like to point out this warning label regarding only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment, and only after they've had proper training. As we move to the right, this is going to be your large diameter pump inlet, and this is the valve for opening and closing. As we move to the right, you'll find your large diameter intake. Moving further down, we'll find your discharge drains, color-coded and labeled on the left-hand side. You'll also find 2 turn valves here. One is the recirculating line, and the other is the engine cooler. Moving further to the right, we're going to find a lift and turn pan door, gains access behind the pump panel. And just beneath that, we'll find a warning label here regarding fall hazard. You should always face the vehicle while climbing. Moving further down, you'll find your pump primer. It is a push to prime air prime. There are instructions just beneath it indicating at least 1,000 RPM for best practices. You'll also find a placard here regarding your pump, which is a Hale pump. Directly behind the pan door with the lift and turn is where you'll find your internal relief valve. The set screw is located in the very top section. Also, as we look down to the running board, you'll find a tub storage location for hose. Moving now to the minimum operation maintenance schedule for 150, 200, and 250 test pressures. On the right-hand side will be the associated RPM with test pressure, and on the left you'll find the associated GPM. Let's move to the body now. We'll identify a few items within this area. First, starting in the lower left corner, these are your air tank drains. Right next to that, you'll find in front of and rear of the axle are your folding wheel chocks. Moving up onto the body, you'll find your storage location for your SCBA bottle storage. To the rear of the axle is where you'll find your fuel door. This will contain your ultra low sulfur diesel and also the location for fill for your DEF tank. Let's go ahead and move to the very center. Right above the rear axle, you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. As we move up to the very top, you're going to find 2 front and rear emergency warning lights. To the rear, you'll find a side-facing scene light. Let's take a look at some close-ups. Let's go back down to that lower left corner where we'll find the air tank drain. And then you'll also find right next to it the folding wheel chock. Let's go ahead and take a look inside the compartments. We'll first start in the upper left-hand corner. This is your battery charger. When plugged into shore power, this will become active. As we move down, we have a 12-volt light. And then further down, you'll find drawers here for your toolbox. Let's move up into that compartment. I'd like to point out we do have a 12-volt DC battery direct location for access. This is going to be your 12-volt light. As we move to the drawers, you can see simple latch at the very top will release the drawer, and when you close it, it will lock into place. Once again, for your fuel storage, this will be exposing the ultra low sulfur silver cap. As we move the flap to the lower position, it will expose the blue DEF cap, which is a 4.5 US gallon tank. Moving back to the very rear compartment, you'll find an additional battery direct 12 volt. It's in the upper right hand corner. You'll also have a shoreline outlet 20 amp. When plugged into shore power, this outlet will be active. In the rear compartment, we do have a pull-out tray. The release mechanism is on the lower right hand side. As we move to the rear, you'll find at the very rear under the tailboard, you'll find your clearance light on the passenger and driver side. Directly in the center, you'll find a tow hitch and then also 3 clearance lights. As we move to the outer edges at the top, you'll find emergency warning light, brake light, turn indicator, and reverse lights. We do have two rear discharges located on the left-hand side or passenger side of the vehicle, the lower section and the upper section. We'll talk a little bit about those as we get some close-ups. As we move to the left, we do have a set of switches here. There are three. We'll go over theirs also. In addition, we'll go over some warning labels. At the top, you'll find your emergency warning lights and also scene lights. At the very uppermost right-hand side of the vehicle, in this image, you'll find your rear scene light. Let's go ahead and move to the right where you'll find this door. D-handle will gain you access inside for your ladder storage. And then as we move down, you'll have a roll-up door in the very center. Just a couple images here with everything in the open or exposed area. We'll go ahead and take a look at the upper portion. These are going to be your pre-connected locations. There are three of them. We'll go over those in a moment. Let's go back to the lower section. First, let's identify a few items within this area. I'd like to point out in the upper left, we have our switches here. We're going to start with the hose bed, moving to the right, rear scene, and then moving further down, you'll find your scene lights. We also have some warning labels in this area. First one I'd like to discuss is your fall hazard. Please do not ride on the vehicle while it's in motion. And also as we move down further, you'll find a warning here that you always want to face the vehicle while climbing. Moving just to the right, I've got a few more warning labels I'd like to point out. First, the warning label regarding pressure hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. And to the right, we have an entanglement hazard warning, indicating that because of those hoses are coming from aloft, there is the possibility of entanglement. As we move to the roll-up compartment door, you'll find a lower tray and an upper. The release mechanisms are on the right-hand side. Here's an image of in the full displayed position in the bottom and partially open in the top section. Let's move to your ladder storage. You have a 24-foot extension ladder. Moving to the right, you have a 14-foot roof. And then at the very top section, you have storage for long tool handles and also folding ladders. As we move around to the passenger side of the vehicle, I would like to point out the very top section. This is going to be another access point, 12-volt DC. This is direct to battery. You also have the Shoreline outlet, which is going to be a 20 amp. Once again, this becomes active when you're plugged into shore power. As we move to the compartment directly over the rear axle, you'll find a D-handle gains you access to the tool board. When it's in the open position, it will lock into position. To restore it, simply lift the latch and return it to its stowed position. As we move to the forward compartment, you'll find an additional 12-volt DC access at the very top, and then also a Shoreline outlet. Once again, when plugged into shore power, this outlet is active. Let's go ahead and cover some of the items within the pump panel area on the passenger side. We'll start in the upper left-hand corner. We have a storage location here with a pan door. There's also a step section here in front of it. As we move to the cross lays, these are the two dead lays, and also tool storage for one tool, which will be a long-handled hook. Let's go ahead and move downward from this location. We'll identify a few items. First, starting on the left, once again, when climbing on the vehicle, you should face the vehicle. That's the warning label here. We do also have some scene lights located on the gray area. And as we move to the right, we have a pressure warning hazard regarding caps may be under pressure. As we move down to the left, you'll find the number 3 passenger side discharge in yellow. Moving just to the right, you'll find your cab lift. We'll go over that in just a few moments in detail. And as we move to the right, you'll find the number 2 passenger side discharge in green. Moving all the way to the right, we're going to find an entanglement hazard warning, and then also the number 1 passenger side discharge in orange, which is a 2.5 reduced down to an 1.5 inches. Let's move further down and lower to the left, where you'll find your large diameter intake and the master intake valve on the left-hand side. We do have 2 pan doors here for gaining access behind the pump panel. And then for the right side, we also have all of our discharge drains that are color-coded and also labeled. And once again, we have a pressure warning hazard down in the lower right-hand corner. Let's move back up to the cab. Same configuration as the driver's side, but we'll go through into the cab rear section. First, I'd like to point out on the door panel, you do have warning information located on the door panel by the latch and also by your electric windows. As we move to the rear wall, you'll find 2 seats which house SCBA bottles within inside, and then at the very top, your David Clark headset system.
Directly over the front axle, you'll find an additional storage location with a light box inside. Let's move from this location to the front officer's area. Once again, affixed to the door panel, you'll find all of our safety and warning information. Also, you'll find your electric windows and also door latch. As we move inside the cab, I'd like to point out on the very far right A post, you'll find the fill location for your windshield wiper fluid. As we move to the front section, your vehicle is equipped with a supplemental restraint system, SRS. Please be cautious and don't mount anything within this area. You'll also find in the upper right-hand corner on the A pillar, you'll also find a map light. To the left, you'll find a push-to-talk for your radio. And then as we move to the floorboard, you'll find your air horn and mechanical siren foot pedals. Let's take a quick look around the inside. First, at the very top section, you'll find push on and off white or red lenses. You'll also find in the very center your seatbelt information, red indicating someone is in the seat and not belted, green indicating they are in the seat and belted. As we move to the next set of items here in the next module is your EQ2B. This is your mechanical siren. Moving further to the right, we've set a set of switches, front flood, driver's side flood, passenger side flood, a siren brake, and also MV62 scene. That's going to be your brow light. Moving further to the rear, you're going to find a outlet. Once again, when plugged into shore power, this outlet would become active. Let's take a look at the top section of the vehicle. We'll start at the cab area. We'll first start with these warning labels regarding do not walk on this surface. It is not a designated walking surface. We'll move next to the dunnage area where you'll find a booster reel. You'll also find on that booster reel, you'll find if you have a motor failure or some problem with your electrical motor, there is a manual rewind located on the top. There's also a tension or release tension on the side spool. As we move to the center, you'll find your master stream device location. Let's go ahead and take a look into the dunnage area first. Identify a few things with the booster line. This is your booster line motor reset. As we look at the rear section of the hatch area, I would like to point out there are 4 hatch locations. There are 2 forward, passenger and driver, and then also 2 rear, passenger and driver. From this location, let's go ahead and move back up to the front section of the cab, and we'll start with the driver's area, first starting with the door panel on the driver's side. We have all of our warning and safety information attached to this panel. And then also we have window control and door lock control. As we move down about the right ankle of the operator, you'll find a couple of items here. First, we'll start down at the very bottom with the yellow placard. This is going to be your manufactured from Pierce for your department. It has the date of manufacture, 5-digit job number, gross vehicle weight rating, cold tire inflation, the VIN number, components, fluid capacity for those components, and also fluid type. As we move to the floorboard, you'll find a air horn pedal. You'll also find your brake treadle, and then to the right, your accelerator. Moving to the left, you'll find your master battery switch, which is the silver switch. As we move to the right, you'll find a tech module, engine, transmission, ABS diagnostic port. Just beneath that, you'll find all of your ABS diagnostics and engine diagnostics, your DPF regen switch, and also your regen inhibit switch. As we move to the very far right-hand side, you'll find a display port. Moving up onto the left-hand side of the steering column is where you'll find your event trigger. It is the blue button. Moving down to the lower right-hand side, you'll find your pump shift. There are instructions here for road to pump, and then also from pump to road. For activating your pump, you'll need pump engaged and OK to pump, both green indicators illuminating before exiting the cab for pump operations. As we move to the right, you'll find a flat mirror and convex mirror control for your left and right mirror. Let's go ahead and take a look at the dash area for the operator. On the left, you'll find your ignition and start switch. As we move just inside of that location, you'll find a switch labeled EM, which stands for Emergency Master. Will activate and deactivate all of your emergency lights. Just to the right, you'll find your headlight switch and panel switch, which will allow you to brighten or dim lights within preview of the operator. Moving further to the right, you'll find your OK to engage your high idle and OK to engage high idle indicator. As we move up onto the display on the left-hand side, you'll find your transmission, oil, DEF level, water temperature. On the right-hand side, you'll find your front and rear air, fuel, and volts. Located in the center, you'll find your tachometer and speedometer. Diagnostic information will display above and below the speedometer. As we move to the right, you'll find your Pierce Command Zone, a tremendous amount of information right here at your fingertips. Please see your owner's manual for more information. To the right, you'll find windshield wiper control, push for fluid. Just down from that location, I've got a bank of switches. We'll go over those in just a moment. As we move further down, you'll find the yellow diamond. This is your pull to apply your system parking brake and push to release. Just to the right, you'll find your Allison transmission pad. It is a push button digital transmission readout. Moving further to the right, you'll find your climate control for heat and defrost, air conditioning, and your heater. Let's move now back to the Command Zone. Once again, please see your owner's manual for more information on this device. As we move through the switches, you'll find your engine brake on and off switch, setting switch for that engine brake for low, medium, and high, an activation which is your protected tire change switch, off-road traction, mirror heat, and a radio push to talk, which is the red button. Moving just to the right, once again, heat and defrost, air conditioning, and heat in the center. As we move overhead, you'll find once again the push on and off white or red lens. You'll also find this yellow placard in the upper left-hand corner over the operator's head. This is your clearances for height 9 feet 8 inches, length 29 feet 10.5 inches, a gross vehicle weight rating 42,000 pounds. If you make any adjustments or changes to your vehicle that may affect this placard, please update this placard. As we move to the right, we've got a set of memory switches. First, starting on the right, we'll start with the emergency master, roof light, front warning, and side warning. The next section down houses the lower rear warning, upper rear warning, high beam flash, and your Opticom. When any of these switches have been activated, the outer edge will illuminate. Let's move further to the right where you'll find your air horn, electronic siren, mechanical siren, the red siren brake, defrost fan master, rear scene, your camera, and load manager. Let's move just a little further to the right and we'll find another set of switches. These are going to be your front flood, driver side scene, passenger side scene, your perimeter lights, rear flood, cab rear scene, the MV62 scene, that is the brow light, and then to the right, the scene master. As we move further to the right, you'll find an AM/FM CD weather band Sirius XM radio. All the way to the right in the very center, you'll find your unit radio and also 2 fans. Moving just directly in the center, you'll find a red light. If it is flashing, it's indicating do not move your apparatus. You have a compartment open or a door ajar. Let's move back to the very rear of the cab area. Once again, affixed to the door panels, we'll find all of our safety and warning information. At the hinge point, you'll find a grab handle for getting access in and out of the cab. As we look around inside the cab, you'll find directly behind the driver's seat a pull-out style drawer. D-handle will gain you access into that. Webbing in the very center. Just beneath the webbing area is where you'll find your access point for gaining access into your rear of the engine for your oil and transmission fill locations. You'll also find overhead 2 forward-facing windows, also your air conditioning vents. As we move to the rear seats, you'll find 2 forward-facing seats on the very rear wall that house SCBAs. Underneath the vehicle, just to point out, you do have tire chains, and they are automatic from inside the cab. Congratulations, King County Fire District 16, Washington, on your new Pierce Fire apparatus. If you have any questions regarding your truck, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and congratulations.